Hello people, how are you? I am feeling good but I wasn't feeling good earlier and there was no reason to not feel good. I was just getting irritated over little tiny things, but they seemed to be bigger things than they actually were. But I just wanted to share with you what I noticed was um, I was reveling in the feeling of irritability or boredom and feeling a bit like a rebellious child, just saying, I am bored and I'm irritated, these people are annoying me. And I was actually making it more than it was and enjoying doing that, even though I didn't admit it to myself at the time. And I realised I do that sometimes just to be a bit dramatic about it all. And just inside, just the feeling of it. And it doesn't do me any good whatsoever. It increases any feelings of irritability and boredom or whatever the negative feeling is. And just makes me feel worse. But it's like I was deliberately increasing it. And I wondered why that was. And I wonder if anybody else has that experience sometimes. It was some feeling of being a child, and there was a feeling of rebellion there, like I am going to stay bored, and it's just really everything's annoying, and I'm okay. Everyone's annoying, but I'm okay. That kind of feeling, superior feeling. And I wanted to get out of it and be more positive. And I started trying to do that, but it was more fun being in the negative feeling. So I thought I have to watch that one because that's definitely happened before. And don't maintain it, don't stay in it any longer than I need to. But I didn't want to speak about that. I'm just going off on a tangent as usual. I wanted to speak about the self-concept. So I suppose that is linked very much. Neville Goddard, he always speaks about imagining scenes that imply our dream is fulfilled, our desire is a reality in the world. And then from the scene that we imagine, we get a sense of what that would feel like. And then if we live in that feeling, we're living in the end of how it feels to achieve our dream. And we carry that feeling around with us. And from that feeling, the actual dream starts to manifest in physical reality. That's the basic idea of it. But he also speaks about changing the concept of self. And that's what a lot of people don't always do. They imagine the dream, they know what they want, but they don't think, what kind of person would I be if I achieved my dream? How would I change? What would I look like? And it's really helpful to write that down. Just think about what you would look like, what qualities you would develop, and imagine that person, the new concept of self, and then step into it and feel what that would be like. So those are the standard things to do. But I've been reading the book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, as I've mentioned before, which is really, really good. And he speaks also of auto-suggestion, which is telling yourself positive things to help them to manifest into reality. But he also speaks of an unusual way to change your concept of self. Not even your concept, just change how you are, develop different qualities or increase your qualities and build on new qualities. And I wanted to speak a bit about that because I've just started doing it. not really even started doing it, because it's another of these things, like what Neville Goddard says. He says, or said, that it's best to take that feeling of living in the end into your subconscious. So to imagine a scene just before you go to sleep. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but I will often fall asleep before I finished the scene. I need to do that more often, actually, because I find it really difficult to get to sleep. But when I need to stay awake to imagine the scene, I fall asleep. I suppose it's like counting sheep or something like that. But you've got to try and get to the end of the scene and the feeling. And so I think sometimes I'll just imagine sitting on the sofa and then go to bed, but I never do it. But you could try that. You could imagine while you're sitting upright on your sofa and then get that feeling inside. And then when you go to sleep, just before you go to sleep, you've got that lovely feeling to take into the subconscious mind. Anyway, the new idea, it's 100 years old, but the new idea that I am bringing to you is to have a council meeting, an imaginary or invisible council meeting before you go to sleep. And you are the chairman or chairwoman, and you can choose anybody you want to take part in your meeting. But this is how you decide who you want, and they can be living or dead. You have to decide which qualities you want to develop and who has them. So you might think of somebody very famous. For example, I've got somebody alive in my council meeting. I haven't called on him yet, and probably lots of you will think, why did you choose him? Bradley Cooper. But he's actually somebody that I really admire, and I only realised it recently because I was watching some of his interviews, and he's a good-looking man, but he came across as being really relaxed and humorous, and I really liked that. Every interview I saw, he really connected with the interviewer. He was very present. So I suppose those would be the three qualities I would like to develop. Being present, being more relaxed, and more humorous, because obviously I already am humorous, but I could do with being a bit more humorous. We all can, can't we? So what you do is you invite that person to your meeting, but obviously this is all happening in your imagination, and you praise them. You say, I really like these qualities, and I'd like to have those qualities myself. Please would you impress upon my subconscious mind the qualities of being relaxed. I don't know what the noun would be. Humour, having a good sense of humour, and being present in the company of others. Please would you impress those qualities upon my subconscious mind. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And then you go through every single invisible counsellor. They're all your counsellors. Now, Napoleon Hill recommends 9. I don't know why he says 9. And in his book, he started off with 9, and then he added more and more. So you don't have to stick with 9. And you could start with less if you wanted. But the idea is you're building a composite character from all of these characteristics, from all of your invisible counsellors that you want to have yourself. So you're asking them for the best of themselves, and you're asking them to impress it upon your subconscious mind. And and then it happens. And I don't know how long it takes, but it does happen. And I've already got a good list. And what I would recommend to you, and you've probably already thought about it, the essential person to be one of your counsellors is Neville Goddard himself. And I would ask from him understanding of the truth, increased wisdom, increased faith in... I mean, you have to develop faith yourself, really. But you never know how much they can help you. So help in developing your faith so that you can live in the end and always manifest your desires. And then the other person I would definitely have in your group would be Napoleon Hill, because he wrote this book and he started this idea off for people who've read his book. And yeah, there's so much you could ask of from him. I haven't really thought of the main characteristics I would like to have from Napoleon Hill. It would be the ability to follow his teachings, obviously, to really understand what he's written and to get his help in implementing all the steps to riches so that I can be rich, but to be rich in a way where I'm helping other people and being of service to humanity in some way. So I would have Neville Goddard and Napoleon Hill, and then I've also chosen Henry Ford is one of them. Henry Ford, who invented the automobile and really changed life on this earth for many people. And he was like a billionaire. He may be the richest person who's ever existed. If you just think of all the cars he sold. And he was the one that started off the car business. And so one time you could only go to Henry Ford, but he's a very, very clever man. And there's lots of very good quotes from Henry Ford on the internet. I also chose Thomas Edison, the man who invented the light bulb and many other very useful inventions, which I can't think of offhand. But the light bulb has got to be the biggest one, really. And I tell you what was very interesting. I was reading the book, Think and Grow Rich. And there was part of the book where it spoke about Henry Ford and Thomas Edison going off with some other people who were very successful too. It might have been Andrew Carnegie, I don't know. But they all went away on some camping trip. And it was all about getting together so that they could have this mastermind meeting, really, where all the energy from all their ideas would help each and every one of them. I'm not explaining it very well because I just thought of this right now and I can't remember the story so well. But they were obviously going to be speaking together and helping each other. And I just thought that was really interesting because you don't hear of that happening with other really famous people, that they all go off together and have a get together and talk and inspire each other. Anyway, it wasn't long after, it was only a few days ago actually, and I was watching an interview between another author of a book, Robert Greene, and a dating coach who has a channel called Mindful Attraction. And they were talking about how, well, Robert Greene said he sometimes watches old films and he sees himself as a kind of ghost visiting these people to try and get a sense, really, of how life is short. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. I think I would feel more that they were the ghosts. But I started looking on the internet just for old films, and I watched one which was a bit rubbish. Well, a little bit of it, very little. And I thought, don't really like this. But it gives me a sense of how people were in the 1940s. And then I thought, I'll go back to the 1920s. So I just typed in old film 1920s. And a documentary came up about America in the 1920s. So I thought, I'll watch some of that. That sounds interesting. And I'd only got about 8 minutes in. And who flashed up on the screen? Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and who was the other one? There was the president of the time. He wasn't very well. I had never heard of him anyway. And it was the time that they went away together to speak about ideas. And it was moving pictures of them. There was no sound, but there they were. And there were other people around them. And they're cutting down a tree, not a big tree, but just a really thin one, I guess, for a fire. And it just blew my mind because I've just read about this meeting and I wasn't even trying to find it. I was trying to find just some old film, any old film, and they come up. And that's I thought, well, that's the power of the mind, isn't it? I'm imagining them, and then I actually see them at camp. So it does work. It definitely does work. Anyway, I'd just like to finish by reading a little bit of what Napoleon Hill wrote about it. So I haven't even looked at the part. I'm just going to switch the light on because it's a bit dark. Oh, that's better. I should have done that ages ago. Much better. I made a few notes on it as well. So let's just have a look. So in the meeting, your purpose is to rebuild your own character, to represent a composite of the characters of your imaginary counsellors. I should have just read from this. Assign yourself the task of voluntary rebirth. All men become who they are because of their dominating thoughts and desires. Every deeply seated desire has the effect of causing one to seek outward expression through which that desire is transmuted into reality. Call upon each cabinet member for their knowledge, e.g., Mr. whoever you are, I desire to acquire from you the marvellous understanding of nature which distinguished your life. I ask that you make an impress upon my subconscious mind of whatever qualities you possessed which enabled you to understand and adapt yourself to the laws of nature. I just wrote down a few lines that he would say to these people so I could get into the feeling of it. But just, I ask that you assist me in reaching and drawing upon whatever sources of knowledge are available to this end. I request that you pass on to me the knowledge which enabled you to blah, blah, blah. Give me access to the knowledge that I desire to acquire from you by emulation, the marvellous ability you possessed to inspire men and to arouse them to greater and more determined spirit of action. Study the records of the lives of the men you choose with painstaking care. They will develop their own characteristics. Okay, so I'm just going to read a bit from the book. Those were my notes from the book. See what's interesting in here. Put the glasses on. Okay. Just need to find the right bit. Sorry, I haven't already found it. See, he chose Thomas Edison as well. That's why I chose him. But he's a very interesting man. And when I was looking up information about him, when he died at the age of 84, in America, they dimmed all the lights in New York, probably all over America, for a few minutes so that people could see what the world would look like if he'd never invented the light bulb. And it's gone off again, as it always does. I thought that was a really, really fitting tribute to the great man, and really good idea. And ever since I've read a bit about him or listened to a bit about him on a documentary, I really appreciate the light inside the house that I have. And if I didn't have that, it would be candles or something. I mean, hopefully somebody would have invented it eventually, or something a bit different. But thank you, Mr. Edison, for the light bulb. Now, I want to find... There's a very interesting part to this that I think you will like. Okay, here we go. I'm ready now. My method of addressing the members of the imaginary cabinet would vary according to the traits of character in which I was, for the moment, most interested in acquiring. I studied the records of their lives with painstaking care. After some months of this nightly procedure, I was astounded by the discovery that these imaginary figures became apparently real. Each of these 9 men developed individual characteristics which surprised me. For example, Lincoln, he had Abraham Lincoln, that's a good one. Lincoln developed the habit of always being late, then walking around in solemn parade. When he came, he walked very slowly with his hands clasped behind him, and once in a while he would stop as he passed and rest his hand momentarily upon my shoulder. He always wore an expression of seriousness upon his face. Rarely did I see him smile. The cares of a sundered nation made him grave. That was not true of the others. Burbank and Payne often indulged in witty repartee, which seemed at times to shock the other members of the cabinet. One night Payne suggested that I prepare a lecture on the age of reason and deliver it from the pulpit of a church which I formerly attended. Many around the table laughed heartily at the suggestion. Not Napoleon. He drew his mouth down at the corners and groaned so loudly that all turned and looked at him with amazement. To him, the church was but a pawn of the state, not to be reformed, but to be used as a convenient inciter to mass activity by the people. And so he goes on talking about the different experiences he had with these cabinet members. And he stopped after a while because he was a bit scared because they became so real. They developed their own characteristics. So he started off asking them. I mean, he always asked them for things, their characters, and to help with problems. But he started to wonder whether he'd actually believed that they were real and that he might be losing his mind. So he stopped. And then he says, some 6 months after I had discontinued the practice, I was awakened one night, or thought I was, when I saw Lincoln standing at my bedside. He said, the world will soon need your services. It is about to undergo a period of chaos which will cause men and women to lose faith and become panic-stricken. Go ahead with your work and complete your philosophy. That is your mission in life. If you neglect it for any cause whatsoever, you will be reduced to a primal state and be compelled to retrace the cycles through which you have passed during thousands of years. And so after that, he went back to the meetings, and Lincoln raised a glass in the first meeting and said, "Gentlemen, let us drink a toast to a friend who has returned to the fold." And then he just started to add more and more members to the cabinet. And he says at the end, this is the first time that I've had the courage to mention this. Heretofore I have remained quiet on the subject, because I knew from my own attitude in connection with such matters that I would be misunderstood if I described my unusual experience. I have been emboldened now to reduce my experience to the printed page, because I am now less concerned about what they say than I was in the years that have passed. One of the blessings of maturity is that it sometimes brings one greater courage to be truthful, regardless of what those who do not understand may think or say. And I will stop there because I've gone on a bit too long. But I would recommend you try that. And he did change because of these meetings and asking these men. And you can add women, of course. This was written 100 years ago, and he just went for men in the meetings. And I have to say that when I was thinking of who I wanted, I was just choosing men. And that really made me think I should have a few women in there. It's just because, obviously, in the past few hundred years, when you think of the people who've brought really great things to the world, they do tend to be mainly men. And I know I'm going to get shot down for saying that. There's loads of women who've done brilliant things as well. I'm not denying that. But just when I think of like the light bulb, that really has been a huge help to humanity. And so I have just got men at the moment. I've got my grandma because she was a wonderful woman. I'm going to have her there. So I thought I need at least one other woman, because I think she'd like to speak to a woman. She wouldn't want to be the only woman there. I'm really getting into this, you see. So I'm going to think of who do I really admire, who's done great things for the world, and have her in there. And maybe more will come to me then. So let me know if you'd like me to speak more about the invisible counsellors. I'm going to start doing that from tonight, and I hope you give it a try too, and it reaps many positive benefits for you. So I can see I've gone over 27 minutes, so I'll go now, and I hope the quality of this video is not too low, as in the picture and also my content. So please like if you like, and subscribe, and let me know what you think. Am I mad? Was Napoleon Hill mad? Or do you think this could actually work? Why don't you try it and see? Okay, so till the next time, people, thanks so much for watching to the end if you did, and bye.